Today I'm going to talk to you about 3 techniques that will really elevate the way that you shoot. Those 3 things are light, lines, and texture, and we're going to break them down in an easy to digest way so that you can take it onto your next shoot as well. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, my name's Tom. I'm a wedding photographer based in the UK. On this channel, we explore strategies and tools to help you grow your wedding photography business and live a happy, fulfilling life. Light determines the overall mood, tone, and atmosphere of a photo, helping to create a sense of emotion or drama in your images. If possible, I'm always looking for well-lit spaces, for example, a big window. So if I can get a bride or groom into that window when I'm taking solo portraits, for example, I'll always place them so that the light is coming across their face. By lighting your subject with light coming across your subject's face, you're introducing depth to the frame, which makes for a more interesting image. For example, what you're seeing currently is a big light up here, and the light is coming across my face. As you can see, the light is here, and there's shadow here. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like lighting from the front, just so you can see the difference, and see how it's completely changed the mood. Now, the image behind me hasn't changed at all. There's still depth there, but I look less interesting because there's no depth to my face at all. And the most important thing in your frame is your subject. So let's go back to something more interesting. Much better. Understanding the direction of light is crucial to leveling up your wedding photos. And a really simple trick that I use, especially when I'm outside, is using my hand and seeing where the shadows are and where the highlights are. So for example, highlights are here, and if you can see the back of my hand, shadows are here. Don't be afraid to try out different positions and different angles, maybe even grab a guest or two to practice before you take the couple away for a couple shoot. Facing people towards the sunlight isn't necessarily the best option. In fact, I very rarely place people in sunlight. I tend to shoot towards the sunlight with the sun slightly out of frame so that you still get interesting refractions and glare from the sun being slightly off frame, and you still get a well-lit couple. I actually prefer shooting in cloudy conditions because the clouds result in a diffused light which reduces harsh shadows on people's faces. When it is overcast, you've pretty much got free rein to shoot wherever and whenever you want, but when it's sunny, this is when it starts to get hard. Direct light is really good for emphasizing texture and detail, but when used wrong, it can result in really harsh shadows on people's faces, so it's not as flattering for portraits. With this in mind though, you can still make some really interesting compositions with harsh sunlight. I tend to place my subject in front of something that's in the shade, so for example a tree where the sun is just coming through but it still covers the couple in the shade. Or think of other interesting ways where I can create contrast. Take this photo for example, where I place the bride in front of a dark green bush and the groom in his black suit against the white of the venue. Combine this contrast with the rule of thirds and you've got a really good photo. This takes me on to my next technique, which is lines. Now there are 3 different grids that I want you to remember. First one is easy, almost everyone's heard of it, which is the rule of thirds. Second one is leading lines, and the third one is the Fibonacci spiral, and we're going to go through all 3 of these now. The rule of thirds is a really simple one, and you should be able to bring it up on your viewfinder as well on most camera systems. The rule of thirds divides the frame into 9 equal areas, and the general idea of the rule of thirds is you place interesting parts of your photo along one of the lines where they intersect. For example, take this photo, where the subject's eyes are in line with the upper third. Or this one, where there are several important details on different intersections. Leading lines are really simple too. They're simply lines that direct the viewer to the subject of your image. This can be used in so many different ways, such as roads, architectural features, rivers for example. Anything that your eye can see, where there are lines that will lead your eye towards a subject, you can use this technique. Lastly is the Fibonacci spiral, which sounds and looks a little bit more complicated, but in reality it is really quite simple. It works in a very similar way to leading lines, but now we've just got curved leading lines instead. Now of course photography is very subjective, so you don't have to use a grid in all of your photos. They're just a good starting point to make your compositions a little bit better. Lastly is texture, and this one really is the most simple of the 3. All I mean by texture is find an interesting texture behind your subject. You can use texture in combination with lighting as well, and sometimes even leading lines to make it the perfect photo. But during a wedding, I'm constantly looking for textures to make things that little bit more interesting. There are loads of tutorials out there on how to use each of those 3 techniques in way more detail, and I'll be making a few myself. But until then, just go out and practice, keep shooting, and use those 3 things. Just try and keep them in mind at all times. So that's light, lines, and texture. As always, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one.